XDS, chambered in 45 ACP, also available in 9mm. Safety check for safety sallies. Empty mag, empty chamber, nothing in there. So, now when this first came out, this was a little bit of a splash because everybody's like, "Ooh, it's a really small 45. It's the same size as like a Kel-Tec PF9 or Ruger LC9 or any other 9mm of that size category, but it's a 45, so that's big deal, And yeah, it's cool because they've actually had other, not this company, but other companies have made 45s in this size category, but they've always had some major drawback of one or another. Like say, you go back in the 80s, there was like the AMT backup in 45, and it was this big, heavy, all stainless steel, clunky beast. And then Carr came along with the CW45, which was sometime later. And the biggest thing with the Carr, all of the Carr pistols, is they have that long double action trigger pull like a revolver, which some people are just, oh god, I can't have that. So this came out and it was kind of a big deal because, again, you got a striker fired trigger pull instead of a long double action pull. You have this 1911 style grip safety, which some people like, some people don't. And you have this very slim size overall. This is right out about 1 inch. And the weight is 21 ounces, which is not probably the lightest 45 on the market, but it's pretty reasonable because you can only make some of these things so light before they become just uncomfortable to shoot and impractical and so on. So, now, the size and weight, of course, it makes it very easy to carry. The weight is light enough, again, that it's very light on the waist. I wouldn't call this a pocket pistol because it's just heavy in that terms. But on the waist, inside the waistband or just outside the waistband on an old pancake holster or something, very lightweight, very easy to carry, very comfortable. But it does have just enough weight that it is pretty controllable. You're going to have muzzle flip no matter what when you're dealing with 45 in a small package like this, especially when you're dealing with a shortened grip that doesn't necessarily let you get all your fingers on there. I always say I have medium-sized average hands, and look at the bottom right here. This is just a flush base plate on here. It goes halfway to my pinky. Now, when I actually go to try and shoot this always ends up falling off of there, so I still end up with this 2 fingers here is all I got for grip. So, however, adding a pinky extension makes a huge, huge difference on controllability and comfort and everything. But anyways, I'm getting sidetracked on there, sorry. But the size and weight overall is it's a pretty good balance. You have a very, robust build to it. It's not flimsy. They didn't slim this down to the point where they were just making it as slim as possible and then compromising reliability and durability. I mean, these have been known to go thousands of rounds and, keep on going. I'm not saying that Springfield Armory makes perfect pistols or anything, but they are a lot of time compared to Glock in terms of durability, reliability, and so forth. So you have that working in favor for you. It's something you can actually shoot often and become proficient, and you can carry it often too. It's not one of those, carry often, shoot rarely kind of guns. It's not unpleasant to shoot. I can't say that it's easy to shoot per se, but it's easier than say like the Carr CW45 I used to have and some others. So, and one of the reasons why also that it's easy to shoot is the trigger. Now again, we have I always like to double check, make sure we're all loaded here. But the trigger pull on here, it's very crisp. I won't say it's excellent because it still has kind of a fair amount of take up here, but when it breaks, you got a little bit of creep, but it's pretty crisp. And then the reset, it's got a really nice, definite click for the reset. And it's not too far out. It's not as short as some, but pretty reasonable. So, reset, I can't say it's all the way out. It's right there. And then all the way out is right there. So it's this little take up right here is where it comes back up to. Takedown on this is pretty simple. It's kind of like a backwards version of if you're used to like Smith Wesson M&Ps. Throw this out real quick. Rack your slide back. This, instead of going down on the back side here, it goes up on the front. So it's kind of a mirror of it. The slide goes forward, pull the trigger, comes off. And of course you have your standard, recoil spring, barrel, slide. Just like any other common, Glock type or whatever. Pretty much everybody's going with that Browning short recoil design. And one last thing is the sights. I like the sights. They're fiber optic on the front and just white dot on the back. Not a huge advantage to having the fiber optic. I mean, it's not like, you know, it makes this huge difference in everything, but it is kind of a nice little touch. It's just slightly better than, you know, just plain old white dots, all three. And, you know, it's adjustable for windage on the back. It's not a screw adjustment or anything like that. You have to actually knock this over with a drift of some sort, but it is adjustable, so it's a little extra. But right out of the box, I haven't had to do anything with it. The sights are pretty well right on for me, and I'm not a great shot. It does have a loaded chamber indicator, kind of like Ruger, but not near as obnoxious. It's just a small little nub here. You know, it doesn't stick way up, but it's there. And the aforementioned grip safety here, which, you know, if you have a proper grip on there, which is not hard to do because you only got so much grip to get a hold of, you're going to have to get a proper grip on it. You don't even notice it really, it's there. Has ambidextrous magazine release, both sides here. Does not have an ambidextrous slide stop, but, you know, most people, the lefties and such, it's not a big deal for them a lot of the time. And, you know, being that there's no manual safety, it's all the same on both sides. Slide serrations go all the way to the top around here, and it is kind of a good and bad. It's good in the sense that it does give you a really nice grip. I mean, they're very deep grooves. You can see how deep those are. But it has a very nice grippiness to it. It's very easy to get an overhand grip on it and rack. But these little things here also, if you have a snug fitting holster, these will kind of drag when you're trying to pull out of the holster. It will kind of drag or even snag depending on the holster material. So that is a little iffy. Now, the capacity. Now we're getting into the negatives here. The capacity, I knew this going into it. I mean, it's 45 ACP. You can only make things so small and cram so many rounds into a given size package. That's just the reality of 45. You're dealing with a big old diameter bullet and cartridge, and if you try and squeeze things down too much, I mean, again, you either get things too light or too small to get a hold of to control adequately, or you end up with this, which is kind of a compromise, which is, again, it's nice size and everything, but 5 rounds is all you get in the magazine plus one in the chamber. So basically you have a revolver capacity. My Ruger Blackhawk 45 has the same capacity as this. Now, given my Blackhawk is not as easy to reload as this, I mean, I just, you know, pop it out, pop in another one, you're good to go. But 5 rounds in this size package. What could we do better than this? Maybe 9mm, 7 plus 1. So that's 8 rounds versus 6, 2 extra rounds. Oh, but 45 is so much better. Yeah, well, sorry to say it, guys, but 9mm and 45, we're not talking night and day difference anymore. This is the, you know, 21st century. Loads are pretty darn good for the 9. Enough to the point where the whatever advantages there might have been in the past with 45 over 9, pretty negligible. Nothing you're going to really realize in real life. As long as your shots are on target, did I just say shots? As long as your shots are on target, this will work as effectively as this in terms of ballistics. So this same exact size, and here we have a little bit of comparison side by side. Flush base plate on both, very, very, very close in size. M&P is just a hair taller overall, but same width, almost identical. This is right about an inch, this is right at an inch. Very similar weights. These are both right around 21 ounces, I believe. And grip feel, this is a little more squared and blocky. This is more rounded and kind of seems thinner, but not really. But really, same for same barrel length and all. You're getting 2 more rounds of essentially the same effectiveness as this. Now again, these do have a 9mm available. You can get the XDS with 9. Does have more rounds. Still, just my personal preference. Now, other things that come with this, when you get this nice, lovely case, which looks more like a freaking briefcase. XDS. Now, it's kind of hard to fit all on camera here, but you have this very well presented, and I'm thinking this is where a lot of the price difference comes in. You have this very complete package. Now, this did not come with it. Let me take this out for now. But otherwise, you have this very nice package with your lock, your gun, your spare magazine, a spot for an extra magazine later when you get one, because trust me, you'll want one. Your spent cartridge casing, which just fell on the floor. You have a, this is something kind of silly. They give you this paddle type deal with loops instead of a, a paddle type mount. But they give you this thing to hold 2 magazines, but they only give you 2 magazines to begin with. One in the gun, one here. So you basically can only fill this with one until you go buy another magazine. Why didn't they just throw in another one? I don't know, because they left a cutout for one? Whatever. And then you have this little paddle holster, which I filled with bits and pieces. But you have this pretty well made paddle holster. I'd say it's better than probably a Phobos or something like that. It's pretty good. It actually conceals decent under just an untucked t-shirt. And it does even have a little adjustment, Allen or hex wrench, Allen, hex, whatever name you prefer, for retention. And an extra bonus on top of that, you have this interchangeable back strap. It's same as some of the other guns out there like the Ruger and such, where you push out this little pin right here, and you can just stick in whichever grip. You only got 2 options. I have the larger one. I never changed it because that's what it came with, and it fits my hand fine. So just left it alone. Now, one of the things you can get for this, and I really would recommend it, especially if you're going to be carrying more than one, or even if you're just going to carry one backup, they have a 7-round magazine. So you're getting an extra 2 rounds, and it has this extended grip on here. So when you pop this in, you have a full-size grip. Get all your fingers on there and then some. Except, this is where I start griping again. See how much of this is sticking below my hand? That's just to get an extra 2 rounds on here. Now, I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with 1911 shape size and everything like that. You can fit 8 rounds in a 1911 magazine in less sticking out space than this. Why did they need this much space just to add 2 rounds? I get the whole 45 size thing and everything, but again, we're dealing with a 45 single stack magazine. And look at this. Once you take off this adapter, it looks just like a 1911 magazine. But this only holds 7 rounds, and it's longer by about an inch almost, where you can hold 8 rounds in a 1911. I don't understand why that is. So again, griping on capacity, for its size, it could do better. And if you go just a little wider, you can go with a Glock 30, and you're getting 10 rounds plus 1 in the chamber. Just obviously a bit wider, you go with like a Glock 30S. The slide width isn't that much bigger. The grip is a little wider, and the weight, it's a little bit more weight, but it's 10 rounds versus 5 plus 1. It's almost twice the rounds in the same caliber. So I'm really not keen on the capacity. The more more you get to considering everything. And the one just to show real quick here, extended magazine base plate. Very highly recommend getting this. It is by Pierce. I got this on Amazon. Very simple to install, but when you have this on, if you're carrying this inside your waistband, does not add any footprint at all to the grip. Just to the front here, not to the back. Conceals exactly the same. So, very highly recommended. Adds a lot of controllability. Another gripe about this is the texture. Let me get this out of the way here. The texture on this is a little bit like a car. These guys really went overboard with the chunkiness. Now, it's not very unpleasant like the car. I mean, this will not scar you or tear up your skin, but it was getting pretty dang uncomfortable just after 50 rounds. It wasn't hurting the web of my thumb like here, like some of those real lightweight 9mm and such do, but it was really starting to kind of eat up the insides of my fingers here on the front and the back just a little bit. So, because you really have to get a firm grip on this to control the recoil. So, not liking the texture. They could have made it just a little more shallow like they did on some of their larger XD size, the XDMs and such like that. The lack of stainless. For the price you pay for this, I mean, this was $560. That's about average, I figure. You're getting a carbon steel slide with this, it's not melanite, it's like a Tennifer type finish, something similar to Glock. And it's supposed to be really durable and all, but still, it's underneath there is carbon steel. Going back to the M&P here, this is a stainless slide with a melanite finish. So this is twice the material that this is, because once this wears off, it's going to be rust prone. Once this wears off, still not going to rust because it's stainless underneath, or at least it's not going to be likely to rust. But this costs less, almost $100 less. Why couldn't they do that with this? I don't know. Now, to demonstrate the ejection problem that I've had, and a lot of other people have commented on this, there's a problem with the ejection port is basically, I think, too small for this given cartridge. I don't know if the same problem exists on the 9mm or not, because I don't own one. But at least on 45, I have a zoom snap cap here to demonstrate. But when you go to eject this, if you just try and do a slow ejection or overhand and try and dump it in your hand, here's the problem. See how it's hitting that? You have to do it quick to get it to eject reliably. Otherwise, it'll jam up, and it's particularly bad in a lot of hollow points. It'll catch that rim on the front of the cartridge on the front of the ejection port here. But when you try and eject the round, if you do it slow, let me load it here. When you try and eject it, it jams up, and it will actually set the bullet back, or it'll crimp the front of your hollow point. So you have to really rack it back to kick it out. And it depends on types of bullets, different brands and such. Some are worse than others. Now, by comparison, going back to the shield here, snap cap, A zoom. Now to eject, you can do this as slow as you want. And you got all kinds of room. Muzzle flip, again, can't do much about it. It's 45, it's lightweight, you're going to have muzzle flip. I will say that this is considerably easier for me to make quick follow-up shots. I can't even really call it a double tap, but really it's easier for me to make shots quicker and more accurately with this than a CW45, even though the CW45 is about this much longer. You have more grip, but part of it's the trigger, has a very short reset. Part of it is the spring design. This has a double spring in here instead of a single spring. That helps soak it up. And the weight distribution, I think this actually has a little bit of a lower bore axis than the car, strangely. I could be wrong on that. I haven't really set them side by side to be really sure close up. But overall, it's easier to shoot rapidly, and it's definitely easier to shoot more accurately. Part of it's, again, the trigger, and part of it's just the sights and overall feel of it. But again, it's just the caliber, 45. It has some muzzle flip in a package this size. 9mm, probably not going to be as much of an issue, being that the size and weight and everything is exactly the same as this. I would say it's pretty comparable to this. So if that's, if you're recoil sensitive or you just have a hard time controlling it, I'd probably lean towards the 9. And again, as I mentioned, the price. This is $100 more than the direct competitor, which would be, 400 some change, like 425, I'd say, for one of these. 560, sometimes almost 6, depending on if you get like the two-tone model. I'm not really seeing what exactly you're paying for other than this bunch of stuff. Most of which most people don't want because they're going to get their own aftermarket holster and everything else. Now, would I recommend this? Yes and no. It's good for what it is. A small, compact, lightweight 45 ACP pistol. It's reliable, shoots good. Yeah. In that sense, I'd say it's a pretty darn good pistol. But for its size and weight, I would, especially for the price, I would much sooner go with something a little more, a little more domestic, 9mm. This I can shoot as easily, honest to God, as my full-size 9mm. And it's just very well built, same deal, same size, same width. It's just that whole 9 versus 45 difference. If that's a huge thing for some people, I don't know. So, anyways, overall, that's the score on that. Sorry to be so long-winded. Had a lot of caffeine today. So anyways, for what it's worth, that's my 2 cents on that. Thanks for watching.